Here's your news for December 24, 2019. We're kicking off this Christmas Eve video with news from Monday Night Raw, as the trio of Seth Rollins and the AOP may have met their most dangerous opponent yet. When Kevin Owens kicked off the 3-hour show, the prizefighter was looking to make an impression, and did just that with a no disqualification victory over Mojo Rawley. Owens' victory was short-lived though, as he would once again be confronted by Rollins and AOP, though the Architect was, on the surface, in a much calmer mood. Offering Owens a handshake and implying they were even, the Canadian responded with a super kick, but this offense didn't last long, as Rollins and the AOP would deliver a 3-on-1 beatdown. Behind the announcer's table, Samoa Joe spoke about how dangerous the group is, and when you consider that that's coming from one of the baddest men in WWE today, every superstar on the Raw roster should be on high alert. Later on in the night, Rollins took on US champion Rey Mysterio with the title on the line, and though Akam and Rezar looked to provide their own analysis on the match, Samoa Joe refused to move from his seat, telling the former tag champions, "If I get up, it's not to move. If I get up, it's both your asses." Joe was all ready to throw down until Rollins smoothed things over, but this was just to get the Samoan superstar's guard down, as AOP would attack him, sending him crashing through the announce table. Unfortunately for Rollins, his US title match ended in a DQ, and we can't help but wonder what's going through the Architect's mind, as we expect Samoa Joe to be hungry for revenge when he's cleared to return to the ring. Though Rollins came up short in capturing the US title on this week's Raw, fans can now get as close to a real title as ever before, though it's gonna take some serious money. This week, the WWE started selling official TV-authentic titles, which replicate the exact belts seen each week on the company's programming. According to the shop website, these belts are the same quality that fans see on TV, and the WWE Championship replica features 338 cubic zirconia stones, individually placed into the 14-karat plates. If you want one of these epic titles, it'll cost you $5,000, and though that's a lot of money, it's still nowhere near how much fans were expected to pay for the limited edition Fiend Universal title. With Christmas around the corner, these titles won't arrive before the big day, but if you do have a spare $5,000 left over after this festive season, now you know what to buy. Speaking of Christmas Day, this month may be Santa Claus's busy season, but that didn't stop the iconic gift giver from etching his name in WWE history. When 24/7 champion R-Truth received a note entirely in Japanese, the bizarre superstar naturally assumed it was from The Rock, and went to the streets of New York City in search of the Brahma Bull. It was there that Truth was rolled up by Akira Tozawa, who won the 24/7 title in the iconic Rockefeller Center, but his reign was short-lived thanks to a roll-up by Saint Nick himself. Fleeing the scene, saying he was taking his new title back to the North Pole, a lifetime of eating milk and cookies meant Santa didn't get far on foot, as he was later rolled up by Truth, who may have regained the title, but has probably ended up on the naughty list for life. We're heading from Raw to SmackDown now, as it's no secret that the Revival have had a rough year. Over the past 12 months, the pair have been seen shaving each other's backs and have been pranked with Icy Hot, so it's no wonder why the team of Dash and Dawson are yet to resign with the company, as their contracts expire next year. That may be just fine with Vince McMahon though, as according to Wrestling News, the boss isn't a fan of their pair, and despite their nickname, doesn't see them as top guys. With that in mind, it may make sense for the pair to leave when they can next year, but just because McMahon isn't a fan, that doesn't mean the company will let them go easy, as there is always the risk of the pair joining AEW. Though the Revival have had a rough 2019, one superstar eligible for Superstar of the Year is Becky Lynch, who won the Women's Royal Rumble and both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships in the main event of WrestleMania 35. Over the year, the man has defeated almost everyone in her path, and we say almost because although she has victories over the likes of Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey, Lacey Evans, Natalya, and Sasha Banks this year, one person the man hasn't been able to beat is Asuka. On Raw this week, Lynch addressed the elephant in the room and called out the Empress for a one-on-one match to settle their beef once and for all. Mocking Lynch in her native Japanese, the Empress ended the segment by saying "Asuka 2 belts," making it clear that she wants the man's Raw Women's Championship to go with the Women's Tag Team Championship she holds with her Kabuki Warriors partner Kairi Sane. Accepting the challenge and throwing out some Japanese of her own, where she told Asuka she's going to kill her, Lynch seems confident that she will finally be able to defeat the Empress of Tomorrow the next time they meet, because if she doesn't, it'll mark the end of her time as Raw Women's Champion. From one trash talker to another now, as Stone Cold Steve Austin spoke this week about how he dealt with bad creative. In an interview with Barstool Sports' Pardon My Take, the Rattlesnake admitted that he was given a lot of leeway in the company, but that did mean staying later than anyone else, saying, "I had a lot of control and they always, for the most part, put me in really good situations to do great things, but I was one of the worst. If I didn't like an idea, I would flat out tell you that's bullshit, and they'd say, 'Well, do you have a better idea?' And I'd say, 'No,' and it'd be like 3 hours before live TV and they'd have to come up with a completely different thing for Stone Cold to do. So I was always the first guy in the building. I was always the last guy to leave. I worked my ass off, but if I don't like creative, I'll let you know about it." As the biggest star of his generation, it's hardly surprising that concessions were made to make sure Austin was happy with his character, and this clearly paid off, as with the Rattlesnake's help, the Monday Night Wars were won in 2001. Back to Raw now, and there must have been some magic in the air in the Big Apple this week, as not one but 3 local stars got to appear on the WWE's flagship show. Of course, appearing on the show didn't mean that they won, as all 3 enhancement talents were soundly defeated by the actual superstars. First, it was Dion Russman who fell to Aleister Black as part of the Dutchman's feud with Buddy Murphy, and the former Cruiserweight champion would respond with his own victory over Joe Asa. Finally, it was Travis Horn's turn to feel the wrath of Eric Rowan, though Horn did try and calm the colossal superstar down with a candy cane. While this worked briefly, it didn't stop Horn from receiving 2 Iron Claw slams in quick succession, but Rowan did feed a cane to whatever he's been carrying to the ring for the past few months, adding further intrigue into what he's been traveling with. From one kind of cane to another now, as the Big Red Machine isn't as sweet as the Christmas treat, at least not in the ring. Last week, WWE's Kane spoke on Corey Graves' After the Bell podcast, where he discussed his transition from wrestler to mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, as well as the future of his wrestling career. When asked about what he has left to do in the ring, the former world champion spoke about teaming with his demonic brother one last time, saying, "I'd love like one last match with The Undertaker, the Brothers of Destruction against someone. That would be so awesome. In WWE, you never say never. When it comes to me, that's how I treat my career going forward." This year, Mayor Glenn Jacobs briefly held the 24/7 championship when the show came to Knoxville, but after a career that has spanned nearly 25 years, expect the Big Red Machine to get the nod for the WWE Hall of Fame in the coming years. And finally, we're heading back to Monday Night Raw, as the Red Brand fit in a ton of action on the last show before Christmas Day. With the wedding of Lana and Bobby Lashley set for next week's Raw, the Destroyer aimed to keep himself toned for the big day when he took on Cedric Alexander. When Alexander started showing signs of a comeback during the match thanks to his aerial assault, Lana tried to have the match changed to a more ground-based Greco-Roman style contest, and despite her request being shot down, it did give Lashley enough time to recover to hit a spear for the win. The 2-time Intercontinental Champion and his 2-timing wife-to-be were in good spirits after the match, as they prepare for what should be the biggest day of their lives next week. Speaking of next week's wedding, Lana's ex-husband Rusev may not have been pleased with what has happened to him, but the Bulgarian Brute isn't letting these emotions show on the surface. In fact, Rusev said in an in-ring segment this week that he's happy for the upcoming nuptials of Lana and Bobby Lashley, but after so much has happened between the 3, we're struggling to believe the former United States Champion. Despite coming up short against Lashley in a tables match at TLC, Rusev bounced back nicely this week, defeating No Way Jose in a quick match. Promising to get retribution for what happened at TLC, it looks like the super athlete may have a presence after all at next week's wedding, much to the horror of his ex-wife and her new man. Drew McIntyre was also on Raw this week, and after a shaky 2019 to say the least, complete with spending months away and losing at Crown Jewel, would score a big win this week. After Zack Ryder's successful toy drive to help kids with very little, McIntyre proved to be WWE's Grinch, leveling the broski with a Christmas-sized Claymore to get the win. The Scottish Terminator was clearly in a giving mood, as he also leveled Kurt Hawkins with a Claymore of his own before declaring that 2020 will be his year, and after this week's assault, it's hard not to believe him. As if things weren't bad enough for the Long Island Iced Z, Ryder's fiancée Chelsea Green would also come up short on Raw when she took on Charlotte Flair. Despite landing a few hits, the future Mrs. Ryder was no match for the Queen, who locked in the figure 8 for the win and will no doubt have a vested interest in the feud between Asuka and Becky Lynch, as Charlotte hopes to capture her 11th championship in 2020. After Ricochet defeated Tony Nese after a pinfall, it was time for one of the pre-announced matches for the show, as the Dream Team of Randy Orton and the Viking Raiders faced off against the OC. Throughout the match, Orton was selling a knee injury he had received, and this proved to be a prime target for the only club that matters, leading to Styles getting the win over the Viper thanks to a phenomenal forearm. As the war between Styles and Orton continues to escalate, fans shouldn't forget that Gallows and Anderson remain to be the only men to hold victories over the Viking Raiders since Eric and Ivar came to Raw, as we expect a Raw Tag Team Championship match between the two massive teams maybe as soon as next month's Royal Rumble pay-per-view.